News updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Oh, Mexico, you sound so simple, I just got to go. The sun's so hot, I forgot to go home. Guess I'll have to go now.
Little JT. Oh, Mexico. That's where the Blinkton is going today. That's where he's heading. They talk about moving migrants south. We're going to move to control railways and provide incentives to Mexico to stop this latest caravan from coming farther north. 6,000 people involved in this latest caravan. More breaking news, just in case you missed it at the top of the hour. I know sometimes you have to take a break. You know, you can't be with us all the time. But breaking news out of Michigan, Supreme Court has ruled to keep Trump on the 2024 primary ballot. I am telling you, this thing that went on in Colorado is just theater. It will be repaired and fixed in no time once it gets to the Supremes. I mean, Diana Ross and the Supremes would rule on that one and come out in favor of one Donald J. Trump. Let the voters decide. That's all I can say. One of my favorite guys in Chicago politics, maybe forever, is a guy named Alderman Ray Lopez from the Fighting 15th. Ray, good morning, sir.
Ray, good morning. Merry Christmas, and soon to be Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas to you, buddy. I there's no traffic today. You heard the news. I mean, there's no traffic. You could have scooted out here. You could have brought some donuts like you usually do, and boom, you'd have been back home in no time. But you wanted to do it over the phone, and I told you via text message that I miss your musk.
You know, it's that sheer animal 15th Ward magnetism that I bring with me everywhere that I go. I can't blame you.
Is there a TV station you haven't been on in the last week? I mean, you're always on Fox. They ought to just hire you for the love of God. I mean, you're a busy guy, and I think with good reason. I was just looking up here at one of the screens we have in the studio, and Mayor Brandon Johnson was on talking about the issue that everybody's talking about at every major city, especially the sanctuary cities. How does this guy get on TV and keep a straight face with the things that are going on in this city? How in the world can he continue to say that this is somebody else's issue when we're a sanctuary city and we invite folks to come here?
Well, I'd like to know what channel you were watching, because usually the mayor talks about equity, inclusion, and everything else that's not on people's minds.
Right.
They're worrying about crime. They're worrying about immigration. They're worrying about the rising property taxes. And he always chooses to deflect it with some other issue that's pie in the sky. You know, it's remarkable that we have these real-life scenarios playing out, and he is pushing forward with the extreme left agenda, which is to deflect to issues you have no control over while ignoring the things that you have absolute control over. You know, we could be doing things to address the migrant crisis, like putting Sanctuary City on the ballot, because we know that while undocumented and asylum seekers are two different groups of people, this policy is what Republicans and Democrats are using as an excuse to send them to the city of Chicago and now to the surrounding suburbs of Cook, Lake, Kankakee, and DuPage counties. We know that this is what's motivating individuals who are not just Republicans. It started with Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis, but we now see the New York Democratic governor doing the same thing. We see Colorado doing the same thing. We see Joe Biden himself doing the same thing through his Department of Homeland Security. So why not have this on the ballot? Why not give people a voice? Or why not repeal it, knowing full well that the state of Illinois will still protect undocumented individuals in this state because of the laws signed by Governor Pritzker? We could do all of those things, but we choose to do nothing. And we're creating a scenario where we now have migrants who are catching illnesses in our own city-run shelters, or like the one in my ward this weekend, who was shot and killed on the front steps after getting into a dispute, an execution style with somebody else.
Talk about, it's been my pleasure from time to time to come down and visit your ward, and I'm always struck by the people that I meet because, there are people, and a lot of them listen to this radio station, would say, oh, goodness, I don't want to go down there. It's bad. And there's no doubt about it. There are some dangerous areas of the city. Your ward happens to have some of those dangerous areas, but by and large, there are nice people. I've met them. What would you say the percentage of the bad people are? I mean, when I say bad people, I mean the gangbangers. Is it 1%? Is it 2%? It's amazing when I come there and I visit. You have all these people trying to do the right thing, and now all these resources are being, they're being taken from your constituents and given to people that are here, I don't want to say illegally because we've let them in, but they're being given to migrants. I mean, that's got to have an effect on your resources.
It undoubtedly has an effect on our ability to service our communities, not just in terms of the resources that are diverted, but of the finances that are being spent on issues, on individuals who are manipulating the asylum process. Look, we have a crime issue that is spiraling out of control, continues to spiral because we are simply not hiring enough police officers. We're not putting enough detectives on the street to solve cases. We're not doing what we should do. We have a $400 million surplus because of the lack of personnel in the CPD budget itself. We could put that money to good use immediately if that was our priority, but it's not. And because of that, that small group of committed criminals in not just my communities, but in every community, know that they can act with impunity, coupled with the fact that you have a prosecutor who thinks she's the public defender, not willing to charge people. So there are things that we can do now, as well as advocate for the fact that you have hundreds of thousands of undocumented who kept their head down, who respected this country, who were hoping for a path, who've been completely leapfrogged by this crisis, by individuals claiming that economic hardship is their criteria for getting into this country. If that were the case, the millions of Mexican undocumented who came here for work should have been granted asylum 10 years ago and worked through this process in the same manner, but they didn't. And they're now feeling left out of this process and left out by the Democratic Party. That
voice belongs to Alderman Ray Lopez of the 15th District here in Chicago and making a run for Congress. Ray, we're going to take a break. I want to come back and I want to ask you if you've seen a change in the way your voters are responding to not only to the Democrat-run institution of Chicago, to Johnson, but also to President Biden. I want to see if there's a little bit of a shift there, and we'll talk about that next with Alderman Lopez coming up on AM 560, The Answer.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kathy Lee Gifford, and I've been blessed to have a wonderful career for a lot of years. People still come up to me all the time, and they go, how are you, Kathy Lee? How's your va-va-voom? And I laugh with them, and I tell them, still going strong, still taking my balance of nature every day, and telling all my friends and loved ones to do the same. Because it's balance of nature, changing the world, one life at a time.
Celebrate Christmas with us. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first order plus a free fiber and spice supplement with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this exclusive holiday offer by using discount code KLG.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. The IRS just rolled out a new program to help struggling taxpayers more easily resolve their tax problems. It's called the Taxpayer Relief Initiative, and it opens up powerful new options for people looking to get back on the right track with the IRS. And no one knows this program like the professionals at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution company. They've resolved over $1 billion in tax debt for their clients and have the expertise and experience to help you. One easy call to Optima can start the process, helping to put an end to your worries of wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other aggressive IRS actions. Make today the beginning of your fresh start with the IRS. Call the experts at Optima Tax Relief now for your free confidential consultation.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Long day. Time to charge up.
Hey, just like my delivery truck.
Even kids know to keep business moving forward, it's time to make the switch to electric vehicles. Whether you have one van or a whole fleet of trucks, resources are available to help you make the changes that make sense.
Let's go.
Beep, beep.
Go to ComEd.com/clean to learn more about how going electric connects us to a better way of doing business and a better future for generations to come.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
And this is Brian Duncan, co-founder of Signature Bank. We wish you the very best this holiday season from Signature Bank, Chicago's business bank.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Let Signature Bank turn your business vision into reality this holiday season. Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Sean Thompson here. If you're a small business owner or you make the marketing decisions or advertising decisions for a business, then listen up. Our annual Food for the Poor campaign is underway. And this year, we are helping to raise money for the children and their families in Latin America and the Caribbean who are desperate for access to food. Millions of people, including many children, are suffering during the season of economic decline, unemployment, and the rising food prices. Our friends at Food for the Poor are working with their partners on the ground to provide life-saving food. And here's how your business can be a part of this solution. Become a Food for the Poor business benefactor by making a $2,500 tax-deductible donation to Food for the Poor. And AM 560 will give you 40 one-minute commercials to air right here on AM 560 The Answer between 5 a.m. and 8 p.m., Monday through Friday, at no additional cost to you. It's the best deal in all of Chicagoland radio. To take advantage of this deal, just call Anjanette Natowski, one of my favorite people, at 847-472-8951. Again, that's 847-472-8951. 951 or go to 560theanswer.com/food for the poor.
AM 560, The Answer.
Ray here. It really is. It's like the Ray Show. Ray Stevens and Ray Lopez. It's Ray Stevens in for Dan and Amy. I'll be here again tomorrow, and they will be back Tuesday, 8:21 in the City of Wind. Mr. Lopez, before we went to break, I was going to ask you about the feelings of your constituents. You're in that neighborhood each and every day. You feel it. You know Chicago. You're running there in the 4th Congressional District. You know what people are talking about. Do you see a shift in the way people view your party? This is the party, the Democrat Party is the party that's letting your constituents down. And I don't mean you personally, and you know that, but there just seems to be this, what's going on in Chicago. People are starting to speak up. Do you see that when you're visiting folks and walking through your ward?
I feel that as I'm walking through my ward, as I'm walking through the 4th Congressional District, and the Democratic Party is going to get it from both ends this election. We're going to get it from the extreme left, who feels that we haven't gotten progressive enough, that we haven't identified the 35 different pronouns that we should be talking about and genders that we should be respecting. I think we're going to get it from the right and the middle, to be perfectly honest with you, because you have individuals who feel that we are going beyond the scope of what the Democratic Party stands for, who don't believe that we are a party of common sense, and who, quite frankly, feel that we are leaving many of our core constituencies with no place under the Big Tent. And that's going to have a huge impact, I think, in this 2024 election cycle, particularly in the general, when you have someone like Joe Biden running in states where any loss of the base could be catastrophic to the campaign. If 5% or 8% of our core demographics, most notably, if black voters, 8% were to stay home in swing states, that could cost us an election that will be decided by less than 500,000 people in some of those states. We cannot, at this point, afford to alienate individuals who are the core voting bloc of the Democratic Party, but we do that consistently on a daily basis. In an effort to try and out crazy the crazy, rather than focus on what our true values are.
And that's and so that brings me to my next point. In your ward, in your area, when you talk about when you try to be frank with people and try to use honesty, sometimes that backfires on you. And one of the things I remember when you and I became friends, I was invited by Sergeant Dinahan of the Chicago Police Department to watch that Adam Toledo shooting, step by step, slide by slide. Hard to watch, but the way they broke it down was interesting to me because the kid had a gun. You spoke truth to power, but you were somewhat alienated by a lot of your constituents for doing so. How is it that we can't have honesty amongst ourselves in this city? If people complain about crime and shootings, and we've had another, last time I checked, it was 20 shootings or 20 shootings and murders in this last Christmas break. How do we not be honest with ourselves to know what the problem is and the solution, that we can't fix it because we don't want to have real conversations?
Well, you're never going to fix anything if you don't start from a place of truth, and that is as clear as day to anybody who's ever tried to solve a problem. Trying to come up with 5 when you're only dealing with 4 apples is never going to work. We see, politicians and the leaders and the poverty pimps in our neighborhoods do that on a daily basis. They stick to the narrative, which kind of goes to your first question: where haven't you been? I could tell you, I haven't been on CNN, MSNBC, or any of them because I don't fit the narrative. Thankfully, the Morning Answer, and especially you and Dan and Amy and everybody else, want to hear the unvarnished truth, which is that you have to have these conversations. And yes, we have to admit that sometimes we have problems in our community. Yes, we have to admit that some of our families are failing and struggling to raise their children. And yes, we have to admit that sometimes government is not the answer, but it is the problem that is fueling these crises in our communities. Then you can address the issues. But if you're not willing to do that, if you're trying so hard to stick with the policy over the public, you wind up with scenarios where you are literally willing to abuse your elected officials to prevent votes from happening that give democracy a chance, as we saw when the sanctuary city debate happened in the city of Chicago. And rather than give voters a chance to weigh in on an advisory referendum, the mayor's floor leader felt compelled to threaten, extort, and even physically attack his colleagues to prevent that vote from happening.
Well, it makes us look foolish. It makes it makes this city look foolish to call it a sanctuary city, and then under Brandon Johnson's watch, have 5-year-old boys die in the what should be protective services of a sanctuary city. It doesn't work. It's good in theory. It's bad in practice. It doesn't work, and shame on them.
And that is going to be replicated in everything that the city touches, because we're seeing that now as they turn their focus on education, saying that they're going to end selective enrollment. So the only schools that are truly performing and teaching kids how to read and write are no longer going to be able to do that. They're going to require all the police officers to be pulled from schools, even though they said that we'll let the communities decide. Democracy is no longer an option now that they're not voting the way you had hoped. We're seeing this in everything that they touch, where the impact of decisions is secondary to the headline that they're trying to achieve. And that is not how you govern. That is how you campaign nonstop without any concern about the repercussions of what you do. And nowhere has that backfired more than on the mayor's plan to ticket buses and charge them fees to come here when bringing migrants. Now you have them being flown in and trained in with no kind of coordination or knowledge, leaving hundreds of people at risk in unknown cities with no resources in the middle of winter.
I guess the bottom line is that election have consequences, and you have to familiarize yourself outside of what union is telling you to vote for who, because you see what you get. And I don't see it getting better anytime soon. Well,
I think it will get better, but people need to stand up and know that their vote counts, not just in generals, but in primaries. And in a district like mine, you'll have 90,000, 100,000 people who will vote in a congressional district in November, but 35,000 will vote in a primary. If you're going to choose to sit home, don't complain about your choices later in the general.
Well, I like what you're running on when it comes to the fourth, and that is fixing the immigration system, bringing fiscal responsibility back, just part of what you're running on. How is that all going for you?
My constituents are excited. We're continuing to move forward. I'm in this race to the end. I think that we provide a clear difference for the voters in this district who see a extremist in Chuy Garcia who does a lot of talk and not a lot of action. And they see someone like me who is not a career politician, not a lifelong politician, trying to actually do good by the people that he was elected to.
Well,
we will give them that choice in 80-something days.
Well, I will remain to be loud for you because you speak the things that people need to hear, and you do the right thing. And man, you sure do take an ass kicking from time to time for doing that. So stand in there and keep doing the good work, man, because somebody has to be there for the folks of Chicago, and so far it looks like you're one of the only guys.
Well, we have some good people out there like Silvana, Napolitano, Beal, and a few others that are standing tall for the residents. I think that we will bring common sense back, but we just have to stand firm and tell people loudly that they do have a choice, but they also have a responsibility to be involved. We have a very human inclination to get frustrated and walk away, throw our hands up and say, to heck with it. I still believe in our city. I believe in our country, and I think many people do. They just need to stand up and be counted now.
Well, you're standing in there. It's a good thing. And I like Silvana. I think she's afraid to come on the radio with me, but that's all right. I think that one guy that you mentioned, Napolitano, I think I'm going to have old Naps on tomorrow to talk about what's going on in his ward as well and just some of the things in and around the city. But, yeah, there are people doing good work as well, and you're one of them, buddy. Always good to have you on, man.
All right, we got to get you back on the neighborhood. We owe Pastor Price some pancakes, I believe.
I will be. I'll be back in the neighborhood, and one of these days, I'll bring her back to Chicago on a permanent basis. I appreciate you, man.
All right, we'll talk.
Alderman Ray Lopez. Yeah, I'll be back down in the 15th, no doubt about it. Really, a unique neighborhood with good restaurants and good people and good kids. Unfortunately, it gets a bad rap because of a few folks. And watch this guy go. A lot of people like to call him a grandstander. I call BS on that because I know him personally. He's a good guy, even though he's one of those Democrats. Again, like I said earlier, he and I, at face value, would have nothing in common. But we do, and I like him. All right, it's 8:31 here at AM 560 Answer. Let's send it over to Nikki Whaley with some news.
Good morning. It's 36 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. A migrant caravan headed to the U.S. has entered southern Mexico. Reports that there's thousands coming from Central and South America. They entered the Mexican state on Tuesday, some carrying a large banner that read "Exodus from Poverty." Now, later today, the Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and Homeland Security Chief Adriano Mayorkas will be in Mexico to meet with the president and speak with him on unprecedented migration and border security challenges between the two countries. And Americans spent more during the holidays than they did last